Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the Improvisational Story Telling Podcast, where every week a few friends get together with their randomly designed and randomly created story elements, combine them together into something you can celebrate like on a national holiday. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to tell you a story. So this is a continuation of last week's story. Seth, do you want to give us a little bit of a recap?
Okay, so what we have is a planet that some space federation would have seeded life here or seeded a colony here years and years ago to mine different resources or just because it was a habitable planet. And through some catastrophe in their interspatial federation, most of them would have all left, leaving behind, kind of the lower class of society and all the things. However, how that kind of played out last week is that the people of this society were drones, kind of manufactured drones that the old civilization would have created to make, lifters, movers.
Yeah.
Basically a slave class cloned out of, particular keys of DNA that would have made prime either warriors or workers or farmers or whatever it was to fit their needs. And there's kind of a couple classes of people or this life that's left here. You have the high kind of like elite class that kind of took the place of the
original colonizers.
The original colonizers and picked up as if, they were gods and they're the children of these gods and they've kept a lot of their old tech. However, all this old tech runs on the blood of all the people. So it's kind of like Inca or Mayan style, like they go about and gather people, human sacrifice as it would seem, in order to fuel their godly technology.
Right.
Then you have kind of the lower classes of people that have basically rebuilt society from the ground up. And I would say they're kind of in like a industrial age. As they've kind of built up from cavemen up to kind of where they're at now. You have like a hero or like a warrior class of people, and they've kind of strayed off, and most of them either are like mercenaries that are hired by different people for protection, or monster hunters, and they kind of keep to themselves, roam about. Normally they'll take on an apprentice and kind of teach them the ways and the ropes of things and kind of bring up the next class, the next generation of, class for that. And they kind of roam around town to town doing monster hunting, go through, like basically warriors for hire.
Yeah.
And so a lot of your heroes, a lot of your people come from that class of people, and everyone else is pretty much, you have kind of like an upper or middle class of like scientists, people that it kind of brought society up to this age, but they just kind of limited.
And they don't really know why.
And they don't know why. They can't reach past this barrier, almost like it's like they can't think outside of a pre-programmed box that has brought them to this point.
Right. If I remember correctly, I think one of the reasons why they used the blood was because it was like that's one of the things they were, the material that's inside their blood is one of the things they were on the planet to mine.
Right. And so it was like a fuel source that gave power to these things, and that's why they're draining it back out.
Yeah.
To power their equipment and such. As far as that goes, the villain, I believe, was someone, and he stumbled across an old factory that basically would have made these things, and through a process he used his own genetic material to seed his own basically minions, which would live for a certain amount of time, but he's never been able to kind of get them past kind of grunt
or animal style stuff. Yeah.
Right. And so he's kind of been tinkering around with all of these. He's kind of a mad scientist, and he can't quite figure out the key to make it right. And so a lot of the monsters and things that have been coming up in this world are kind of results of, these kind of rogue creations of his as he's been kind of mixing different things together in his laboratory and trying to create his army of minions to do his bidding and kind of, take over the world or whatever it is villains do.
Yeah. Cool. So that's where we're at now, right?
Right. Unless, is there anything else that I missed there, Reed?
No, we're good.
Yeah.
All right.
So what did you have, Reed?
For this time, I have the unique artifact.
Okay. I had hero.
And I had hero sidekick.
And Reed, you indicated off air that you wanted to go first.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's hear it.
So there was now I haven't developed this character, and I'm not worried about developing the character so much as what he finds. And the character comes out of what Seth just described, the kind of the more scientific class. He's got knowledge of what learning they have here on this colony.
Right.
And he has always had a fascination for the older stuff, and he got himself hired on when the villain fired up this relic of a manufacturing facility. Because he was very interested in the old ways, the old knowledge, and after hours he was poking around in the lower level of this manufacturing facility in a storage room, and there's a lot of old stuff in there that was mostly junk. But he realized the rear wall of this storage room is covered with a canvas-like material, and he feels that it's not something that is manufactured. Anything that he recognizes. And he realizes it's a synthetic material, like he has seen a few artifacts that were from the original colonizers. So he lifts up this crusty, dusty old covering, and it's concealing in the back wall a door. And it's like a vault-style door with the work is not rusted, or it's out of a material that seems proof against corrosion, and he's able to turn the handle and open this vault-style door, and it leads into a chamber, and the chamber is constructed entirely of these synthetic type materials.
Yeah,
and this would have been like a pod that would have. And it's a workstation,
like a panic room.
Yep, but there's a workstation. There's like what passes for a workplace. There are interface screen type things and controls, and he starts futzing around with it, and the thing powers up. And he is able to realize that there's some things going on, but part of this machine is set up in such a way that it is clearly an interface with other machines, and he's able to turn it on, and he realizes it's an interface with, according to the schematic, an object that is in space orbiting the planet, and
missile platform.
The screen. No, what he has discovered. He has a lot to learn about this, but he thinks his heart kind of leaps, because what he's thinking it might be a dormant spacecraft that was one of the original vessels that carried colonists and materials to this planet. It has been sitting in orbit, dormant. And with him opening up the interface, he has powered up this vessel that's in orbit over this planet. So anyway, that the artifact is this control, this workstation that is in clearly dating back from the founders of the colony. And this chamber is entirely buried outside. This is the lower level of this manufacturing facility. So this is built onto this workstation. And so that's where I am with it right now.
All right. That's really good, Reed. You helped the hero enter the scene. So when this console was powered up and this ship was basically turned back on for the first time in 1700 years or something, it did a couple of things. It did a quick diagnostic of the ship, and then it did a quick scan of the planet to see how it was going. And it found a whole bunch of problems with the planet, right? Because the original colonists weren't there. A lot of the sort of generators and buildings that were were meant to sustain life were gone. And it was like, this whole thing is broken. There's something wrong here. So what it did is it used all of the systems inside, not all of the systems, but it used the systems inside of it to create a drone, to create a being that was capable of figuring out what went wrong. So a smart, capable being that had good prowess, good physical prowess, good mental prowess, and created it and sent it down, right? Thinking that it would be able just to land and like come out of its pod and like go to the nearest person and give them a code, and the code would just unlock the information for them, and it'd be back, get the information in a minute. So basically the ship is waiting for the hero to say, this is what's wrong. But what happened was the hero crash landed because the landing pad wasn't there anymore. He comes out and he is confused, and he tries talking to people, but no one understands him because he's like, I am 76543. What is your user designation? And they're like, my name's Charlie. So it's been like 100 years or so as he has kind of been trying. He has like this greater goal of like, I have to figure out what went wrong, but he also is starting to develop the other goals of like, who am I? What is my purpose for being here? And he's really smart. He's incredibly intelligent. He understands, like a lot of the current people who live don't understand what a lot of the machines do and what their like final purpose is, where that was kind of a thing that was built into him, was the ability to understand that. So he's at the people who, when the colonists first left, gathered all the technology together and sort of became he is of their class of competency and power, but he is not in their kind of sphere of selfishness or trying to like manipulate or trying to like be the new gods. He's not into that at all, because his job specifically was to figure out what went wrong. And so he's the hero traveling around the outer edges of society, fighting monsters. And the more monsters he's fighting, he's realizing that these aren't just sort of creatures that are coming out of some sort of misbegotten thing. These are actually being sent into towns to destroy stuff. So he's kind of getting he's getting lit up that there's an issue.
I didn't get the numbers down. This character has a number designation?
Well, he had a number like 543677 or something like that. But I don't know what name he's kind of taken. I liked last time, I think we were talking a lot about I was mentioning The Witcher, this idea of like a weird kind of monster hunter who people don't really like because they don't really understand him. That's kind of the visage I'm trying to put out. I kind of imagine if like an old English town and like Data from Star Trek were to like walk in, and just be like, I am Data. I have all this knowledge and information. Tell me your designation number, and they're like, what? No. Who are you? Stay away from us. You're weird. Your skin is white. We don't understand who you are, and he's adapted. He's fairly adapted now, so he's not as awkward as that anymore, but he still has this reputation of being strangely intuitive onto things, being able to sometimes heal people of things that they don't understand, but other times, he'll like know when someone's lying, and it wigs people out. They don't like him, but they have to like him because whenever he comes, he can take care of the problem, whatever it is, but they don't like him because he's weird. So I don't know what name he goes by now. Lewis. He goes by Lewis now. So do you want to introduce the hero's sidekick, Seth, or should we think about the story a little bit more?
So part of what I have with the sidekick will bring a few things into the story, I think.
Okay, good.
So the sidekick is, again, one of these warrior class of people. And what's going on, so as it was kind of thing, all these people are drones. They're kind of organic drones.
Right.
So part of the reason that they can't get beyond this, let's say, industrial era where they just do all kinds of mining, just mining and factories like producing stuff. Yeah. And then a lot of, let's say, waste product. And they cannot, let's say, scientifically get themselves beyond this point, is because it's programmed. Someone had left a program that left these drones here to simply mine. That was their prerogative, to mine that material
Right.
and process it down. So in their, like, let's say, rebuilding of society, they really only rebuilt themselves up to this point where they are creating factories that only produce, like, in whatever they're making, it produces like a waste product that is in fact this fuel, this material. And so it's like everything they do, so they're all programmed into basically fulfilling their role. And so as they've continued to kind of propagate and build their societies, they've only come up to this point, and it's like imperative that they have to, go work at the factory and produce and make things. And so they've built a half society around all of this, but they can't get beyond that because that was their prerogative.
Right.
And so what's happening is, so again, like we said, they eat, they sleep, but something that is strange, they don't dream. They lay down and they're, unconscious, and then they wake up, recharged and get back at their day. And so one of the things that pops up, I don't know, maybe in the whole warrior class. Okay, so something that our hero's sidekick has started to develop, and it's kind of a hush-hush thing amongst this warrior class of explorers, monster hunters, that makes them a little awkward. They seem to have a knack to know some things that are going to happen before they happen. They dream. They see things in these visions when they sleep that then they see played out the next day.
Right.
Like they'll see this town and they'll see all the people doing all of their work, and what's going on is they've started to become sentient. So up until this point, most everybody, they're not sentient. They're simply continuing on their prerogative, their
right
thing. And so as, let's say, certain individuals have separated themselves from the majority of society, they've started to become an individual. They've moved out of that system.
Right.
And as they start formulating their own needs, they've become sentient and therefore started to dream. And what they dream, because they're still part of that, their mind is connected to the system.
Right.
And so they see the rest of the world playing out its prerogative.
Yeah.
And so they're able to see like what's going on. Their sentient mind is tapping into like the larger system.
Yeah.
And I don't know, does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking, maybe he went through some kind of trauma, something something that kind of separated his, like, I'm different than you, that kind of, because there's lots of debate and questions about the path towards sentience, like how do you get there? How do you arrive at that place? And the thing I would thinking of is if two people are walking down the same road in lockstep with each other, you could say almost that they are of the same mind, right? If they share the exact same cadence, right? But if one stumbles over a rock, aka a traumatic thing, and all of a sudden he breaks step, he might, if he is lost in the idea of being in lockstep, and then he breaks step, and all of a sudden he stumbles for a minute and then walks again, you can get back into lockstep, right? But that's the kind of thing that brings him to that place of being like, wait, something is different is a thing, because like when you're, who knows if we're in the Matrix or not, when you're inside of it, you don't know that you are inside of it. And it's only when something crazy happens that you kind of get a step back and are able to look. And so the dreams, that would make a lot of sense, because the dreams are basically him just still being connected to the network and seeing what it is that people are going to be doing, that I like that a lot.
And this is my idea on is most of this, let's say, or at least most of the ones that have infringed themselves out of the system are the ones most commonly getting this.
Right.
And our sidekick, I think he's one of these people, and he has a dream of this guy coming, and he lands in the ship, and he's all disorientated, and he's causing a lot of problems for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's outside of the...
Oh, he's like...
That was his dream. So the sidekick, okay, and this was one of the other ideas. So his name is Darren, D-A-R-1. So everyone, like, and it's like another thing where everyone kind of says, oh yeah, it's Darren. And so their like language and things are all like based on, and of course that's our phonetic alphabet, but whatever, we're English speakers, so we can use these.
They get to be English speakers too.
They get to be English speakers too,
yeah,
the Bible.
Yep, just like the Bible.
What language does Abraham speak? Well, if he spoke English.
King James English.
King James English too. He learned that from his great-great-grandpappy Noah. Okay. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's funny.
So anyway, so that was like his dream that he had. So when Lewis comes down, that was something that I think Darren sees, and he kind of catches him as no one gets what Lewis is doing.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to go and figure out all these problems, and no one's like, what do you mean problems? Like,
yeah, this is what
problems?
we do. Yeah.
Like, if we have problems, we call the Witchers or something. Like
Yeah.
And so he kind of takes him, maybe not takes him under his wing, but kind of, not under his wing, but kind of comes alongside him and kind of helps him along. Is like, okay, like here might be something you're looking for. And so it's kind of been taking him around to these things, like, because they're adventures. They go out and they find all these old things. And so it's like, well, what you're looking for, it might be here. And so he's kind of like, here, this is what I know. This is the planet. This is where I've been. This is what I found. What are you looking for? You're looking for this. And so he's kind of just like knows that this guy is kind of like a fish out of water.
Right.
And has kind of come along and been his like go-to guy to like help him along.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So
have you guys seen the movie The Mitchells versus the Machines?
No.
Okay.
It sounds like a great great title for a movie.
It's this really weird. I want to summarize it. Here's some spoilers for Mitchells versus the Machines. In it, the family, the Mitchells, have a pug, like a dog. And the pug has looks like a loaf of bread, right? Because it's a pug. Yeah. And they're able to trick the machines. If any machine looks at it, it like gets confused because it doesn't know if it's a dog or a piece of bread. I like or a loaf of bread, right? So they like are able they end up strapping the dog into a car seat to the front of the car and just like driving forward as the machines just like explode in front of them because they can't make sense. Is it a dog or is it bread? I like this idea that Lewis basically comes down and starts to immediately cause chaos because he is the disruptive force in all these people's lives because he doesn't make any sense. So he's like kind of this line of people starting to like wake up and change, even though he himself is completely and utterly kind of oblivious to it, you know? But he comes into a town and he is a weird, different thing that causes everyone's brains to have to adjust and therefore grow a little bit towards something else, you know? I like that idea because he's just kind of unconsciously bringing in this thing that he isn't like trying to. He's trying to just like fulfill, and he himself is like totally stuck in, you know, he's like not awake. He's just like totally stuck in. He's just got to figure out this thing, you know? Oh, that's interesting. I like it.
I wondered, like the guy that found the workstation, like what he is thinking of all this stuff, you know, like, okay, he turns on the ship and then finds out that the ship, or is there a lot of time gone by and he's sort of just drifted into oblivion?
Yeah, I don't know. My thought is that kind of, because we had said like 2,000 years had passed at the time of the story. And my thought is that this happened like 1,700 years ago. No. 300 years ago. That 1,700 years had passed when Lewis first came. And then, so this scientist, you know, could be something, or this unique artifact could, not to like play down your story element for mine, could be just the delivery method for this, you know, or the ship is waiting, you know, to get the information back. I don't know about the scientist at all. I don't. I had kind of the idea though that his real name is Lewi 5, and there's actually 5 of him on the world that it made, right? And that one of them is the villain who like went down a completely different path, right? And so there's like one of them one of them died, was destroyed in the crash, you know, one of them's the hero, one of them's the villain, and then there's 2 other, you know, maybe there's another one that's kind of crippled, and then there's another one that's lost that they like don't know where it is.
Okay, so I have an idea for that. So what was my guy's name? Darren. So maybe he is one of these.
Oh.
And he was found by one of the other warriors.
Yeah.
Trained underneath of him. But it was like that was the trauma. He came down, knocked his head. So most of the other ones were, let's say, not quite to that level of sentient net yet, because they're still trying to follow a prerogative.
Yeah.
And so his trauma of like basically him crashing, he couldn't remember who he was. The guy that found him, one of these
warrior class guys, right,
gave him the DAR, what did I say? Darren, DAR1.
Yeah. Darwin.
and took him under his wing and trained him. So now this guy, the warrior guy that would have trained him, he's passed away now.
Yeah.
And so now that's basically all this other Lewis,
Darren.
not Lewis, but Darren
Yeah.
knows, and maybe he was one, because maybe that's all he could remember.
Yeah.
And so then you have, 2, 3, and 4, which would be, one of them would be the villain, maybe one of them died in the other crash.
Yeah, I would say the way that Lewis, the hero, gets woken up is he doesn't believe Darren at all, right? And he doesn't believe the villain either, because the villain also knows this thing is true because he's like making these creatures and like doing this kind of creating these drones. He like understands like it doesn't take rocket science to know that like I'm the same thing as these things. But maybe he like finds the last one either alive or still in the pod, Yeah. And that way it's like, because Darren has been like doing things for hundreds of years, he's still like gets suntanned and gets scars and changes his hair. He looks different. He looks different than Lewis does, even though originally they kind of look like maybe they could be like cousins or something. And then same thing with the villain. He's been out for years now, so he looks different. But then Lewis still has this kind of picture of himself, and he is able to see this drone in this capsule, and it looks exactly like him. And that's kind of the sort of the trauma needed to make a jump away from, because all these people are telling him all this information, and he understands it kind of, and operationally it makes sense just how they're talking, but he doesn't believe that applies to him. And then seeing that is kind of what pushes him over the edge to be like, oh, okay, this applies to me also. Wow, this is pretty good. I like this. So the thing that we need to figure out now, we've kind of made a good basis of systems for how the world works and what the hero and the hero sidekick and the villain are doing. What's the villain's plan? We could put this out for another couple of episodes, but I kind of want to figure out what the villain's plan is so that we're not, because we already had the villain's sidekick. We already had the villain made and done in the bag. Is his plan just to take over the world?
I think maybe his prerogative, if that was his prerogative to fix what was wrong, he sees some of this other, let's say, class system.
Right.
So obviously, this is maybe if he's forgotten that he's trying to fix whatever, like the air containment,
right,
to make it,
or it's like a different. There's 100 ways to skin a cat. Maybe this is how he is like. This is how I'm gonna skin the cat. I'm gonna kill everyone on the earth, and then I'm gonna make a bunch of these drones, and we're gonna rebuild the whole place so that when the founders come back, it'll all be ready.
I'll get rid of these broken ones.
Yeah,
I just got to find the key to make the right ones.
Right. That's really interesting. And that way we can almost feel bad for the villain, even though he has chosen an unethical path to pursue his dream. We can still kind of value him a little bit because he's just trying to do what he thinks is not. He's past the place of I'm just trying to do what I think is right, because there are like atrocities he's committing. But we can at least say, the hero can at least plead with him to try another path before he has to, kill him or whatever.
Okay, so I think one of the other things, so the higher, like, elite class,
following
their prerogative, they were supposed to, like, store this, but after so many years, they've just kind of thought that this was some kind of gold, and that's why, like, the elite class also, maybe they've stopped doing, like, the human sacrifice, maybe that was, like, an old thing, and there's, like, a stigma about it, but now that's, like, a secret thing where, like, they might come, like, there's this conspiracy theory, the elite of the world, they kidnap people, and they do all this and that, because that's what they used to do. And now they figured out that that's what all the factories are producing. So now they're stockpiling. And maybe that's what one of them is hitched up on. Or maybe the villain is hitched up on this. Because they're not storing it in the right place. He's got to get rid of all of them. Because they've just been storing it in like these different vaults they've built for themselves. To then like drink it. And they're like, whatever. But like, it'd be like they're going to an aluminum factory and taking all the fluorine and like treating it like it's some gold. Because like, the founders figured out that fluorine, which is a byproduct of processing aluminum, which is toxic, is like the new, eternal energy. And then they can, power whatever they want. So obviously it's important.
It's Coke classic.
Classic.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It is in fact Coke classic.
And so perhaps there's these old storage facilities that they were supposed to like securely store all of this material that they were mining and processing down.
Right.
And they weren't doing it. That's why he's got to destroy it all. They're not like way off in the jungle where he found the real factory or where like, life came from is really where all the storage and all this other stuff is supposed to be happening. And so he's trying to redo that And here, none of these people are following their prerogative. They've gone and like they're doing what they're supposed to do, but not putting it where they're supposed to.
But you take an order and then you play telephone with it for 2,000 years, and it looks like something completely different. You
can see it now, like some like religious like sects of the world, like we have the holy vestments, and they're like just like an old hazmat suit for like processing and stuff. And like the priest is in this hazmat, bring out the holy liquid. It's like, oh, I bless you with the holy liquid. And it's just like, okay, this is like, aluminum waste, like from the factory. Oh, this is the holy.
Meantime, the mothership is just up there cooling his heels, waiting to hear from the LEW 1 through 5 and all that they've got to get accomplished. And they're going, what the? Only it's just a machine, so they're just hanging out.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Should we do this? Should we do another one to finish it off? Something crazy for the end?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this episode of Wait, It Gets Better. If you like this episode, then go listen to the first episode. If you did already, then thank you so much. If you like this episode, then let us know at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com, or you can @ me on Twitter at @getsbettercast. I am, of course, Levi, and I would say stick around because it gets better. Thank you.